Yeah, hey, here we are. Hey, where's the intro? Ah, there it is. Yeah, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 29 of the Undergang Armchair. I am Ando, I am your host. You may notice the intro's a little bit changed. We are working on it. We're going to make a new intro. So, we promise, by episode 30, new intro. So as you know, we took a week off. We needed to take some time to think about it, put our heads together. Needed to just kind of work it out. Week after week, it kind of doesn't leave time to reflect at all. So that's what we did last week, was reflect a little bit, talked about a new intro, and we're introducing that every week we're going to have a theme. We're going to talk about, we're going to have some sort of subject to engage with, to talk about as a way of a conversation starter, of, hopefully a way to understand the guest more, just as a talking point. So I'll tell you guys about this week's in just a second. Man, so busy, so much stuff going on. And I thought taking a week off would help, but nope. And the worst part is I can't even say that anymore. Did you know that? So we're not more busy than we've ever been, apparently. I heard about this. The problem is we talk about being busy way more. Something like, when you write home to your family or write a New Year's letter about the year, the amount of instances in which people mention that they're so busy has gone up 30 or 40% or something. I don't know how they quantify that. Anyways, the point is, apparently we're stressing ourselves out by talking about how busy we are all the time. So, I'm not busy at all. Everything's great. Everything's manageable. Just write a list and get it done. So, let's see what's on this list. This week's theme is inclusion. Inclusion's something I've been thinking a lot about. It's relevant because of some feelings I've had. We'll talk about it in the episode. You'll hear what we're talking about. And, I think it's a pertinent discussion for the art world. Ideas about inclusion and who can be part and who can't be a part, and what that process is of division, and who gets to decide, who are the gatekeepers to this sort of culture. So you can look forward to that as being a discussion with our guest, who is Joachim Fleinert. Joachim Fleinert is a talented photographer. I ran into him. Well, he's not even a photographer in a way. Joachim Fleinert is a talented artist. I ran into him through my work and was immediately impressed with what he was doing. He's showing right now at the Hasselblad Center in Gothenberg and doing Riga Photo Month. So he's out there. But he has recently moved back to Denmark, and we kind of talk about what it's like to come back and try to build a network in a place you have been away from for years. So look forward to that. Other than that, in terms of business, there's good art shows to see. I don't know, we put some up last week for you to check out. David Risley has a really good show. Go peep that. Alex DeCourt, that is rare caliber for Denmark. It's good stuff. And of course, there is Alicia Kvell. She is at Gallery Nikolai Wallner. There's a Kvium show at Niels Sterk. And finally, I want to mention, friend of the show, Maria Frank, talented photographer, is also having a show. She's part of the Copenhagen Photo Festival, which is opening very shortly. I would go see that as well. There's all sorts of shit going on. You can check it on their website. But Maria Frank is having an opening at the Architects Union, Architekturforening, tomorrow, Thursday, the 29th at 4 o'clock. I will put a link up to that on the show notes for this page. Go check her out. All right, enjoy the talk with Joachim. Are you having that weird after show feeling where you're just kind of wandering around and you're like, now what?
Yeah, like a jet lag.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You work so hard on something for so long, and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, It's done. I have no control over this anymore.
Now it's there. Yeah, it's no more a thing I can do, basically.
Right. Yeah, it's such a weird feeling, but it's also such a good feeling to see it on the wall.
Of course. It's kind of where you. Well, I love it being at my own shows, obviously.
Right.
But kind of to watch the viewer see your work, it's kind of the point where you realize what you're doing is kind of having an effect on a person, because when you work at it so concentrated, you're kind of, I stop thinking about what the reason of why I'm doing this.
Right. But you're just doing it.
I'm just doing it and not having any response.
Yeah.
But the response is in the art space.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I don't really believe in that idea of the genius who stays in the attic by themselves and just makes art for themselves. Like, for me, it's really important that you have this dialogue, and you can't just keep making something and then just putting it in a box.
No, exactly.
I mean, okay, some people can, but, you know, for me, I need that dialogue or that energy, because you get an energy from showing it, too.
Yes.
And you're like, definitely. Okay, I did this, you know, this is here, this happened. Are you hard on yourself, too? Do you stand there and go, well, I could have done this, or I could have done that, or na-na-na-na-na?
Not that often, I would say. Mostly, I'm just enjoying the moment of being there in the art space.
Yeah. So, how did it all start? How'd you get the disease? I should say. How'd you get interested in making art?
Oh, well, that's a very long story. But I think I've always thought that I had to do something with my hands, and it was not necessary to build things, but more like I loved making drawings and so on when I was little. Yeah. So that was kind of far way back, but.
Did you ever think like of being a carpenter or anything like that, or was it more just in terms of creativity?
Yeah, I think it was kind of that.
Yeah.
Being creative.
Where'd you grow up?
A bit north of Copenhagen.
Okay. Did you have any sort of like were your parents artists, or did you have any picture in your head of who?
No, I kind of come from a very mathematic family, working with numbers, selling insurance, and yeah.
So this is the big question: are you good at math?
No, I'm not. I'm terrible at it.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. But well, then things happened, and I started to investigate the paintings and start painting myself, and not myself, but
right, making paintings.
Yeah. And then I start. Well, this is very late in the process. I started to realize that what I was actually painting and trying to draw all the time was reality, like making realistic paintings of the landscapes and so on. And then I basically realized that, well, isn't it easier just to take a photograph?
You're like, wait a second.
I know, I know it's very beautiful to be a painter, and yeah, I love painting myself, and so, but it's just so much easier to do it with a simple.
It's just a matter of technique too, right? I mean,
it is.
They're both very valid. It's just a complete different way of working with the material,
Exactly.
Did you? So, how old were you when you figured this out? Are you, 12, or are you 18, or where are we?
I think I was, just finished high school. I guess.
Well, did you just do like a general education high school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
Did you have that moment afterwards where you were like, "Uh-oh, now what?"
Yeah. But it was a very confusing time at the moment.
Yeah.
And I kind of had some years off where I just was out working. then I started to be more interested in this taking pictures and so on, and I started on this what we call a folk high school here in Denmark.
Oh, right, the education for the sake of education. I think it's probably the best way to put it. You know, like it's not a degree. It's not for anything other than the enrichment of yourself.
Yeah, it's a course that you can take, and you can learn of something. It can be sports, it can be art, everything.
Right. I've heard a lot of good things about it. You know, you go there to explore something, essentially. Some sort of topic or idea or, you know, personal or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that most of I learned there is still part of my process today, the part of how I think.
Right.
I was so lucky to have some incredible good teachers. So it was a Kickstarter.
Right. Well, I mean, there is that feeling too when you finally get. I mean, this kind of happened to me. I went for a summer school for the arts in California, and I had been interested in arts, but I finally got to a place where the entire concept was making art, teaching art, learning about art, and only that. And that feeling of being like, whoa, this exists. There is a place where you can do this all day long, you know. Yeah. It's not something you do after going to math class. It's something you do, you know. And it was just like, it's so invigorating. You're like, I found my people. I found my place, you know.
Yeah.
And then the disillusion comes later. But, you know, at least at first you get that really powerful blast of just, you know, and then you meet teachers who kind of guide you along the way.
Yeah.
Was it a long program or was it a pretty short?
It was half a year, 4 months, something like that.
So did you leave there going, I'm going to art school? It's on now.
No, then I started to do the applying for the art schools after that. And I applied for a couple of years, actually.
At the Royal Academy?
Yeah, exactly. And I expanded it to also involve the one on Fyn. But I didn't have any luck. And then I started to realize that, then I have to apply for a school abroad.
Right.
So I did that. And I was very lucky to get in on basically all the schools I applied for.
Yeah.
So there was a luxurious problem.
Right. And then you had to figure out where to go.
Yeah, exactly.
This keeps coming up again and again, and this kind of ties into the theme we wanted to introduce for this episode, which was inclusion. And so, you know, I keep hearing this thing that the educational system in the arts in Denmark is very good in a very specific way. That they only, you know, if you fit into the program that's being run there, you will get in and you will get a good education. You'll have a lot of freedom to do a lot you want. But if you don't fit in, that's it. You're just out. There's no way to get in. If your work doesn't fit into the current zeitgeist, to the current idea there, that's it. You will not be included. You know, and so there's definitely two kinds of working artists in Denmark. There's the Royal Academy, educated artists, and there's the people who've gone abroad. Yeah. And I think sometimes it's better to go abroad to get out because it's such an insular, closed system here, you know. Do you have any sort of feeling like that? Do you wish you'd gone here or?
No, when I realized that I wasn't going to be in the school here in Copenhagen, I also started to realize that if you have to make it in the art scene, I think you have to be at least one or few years outside Denmark. I kind of have the feeling that as an artist you have to show that you are involving in other countries than just Denmark, for an example.
Right. Well, it certainly helps your career, although I think there are examples of Danish artists who exist only in Denmark.
Yeah.
But, you know, whether that's good or bad, you know, that's not for us to say. But yeah, I mean, I think in general you're right. To be, at least to have an interesting and engaged artist practice, you shouldn't just exist in a small country.
Yeah. But what I kind of learned from my stay abroad was started also to be to kind of looking back at Denmark and see how the system is working in Denmark.
Right.
So it was a very teachful experience.
Right.
Learnful experience too.
Where did you end up going?
Well, I went to a school in Gothenberg that called the School of Photography. Not any longer though, but at that time. I remember I moved up there without having any house staying in. So the first 6 months I was staying in a caravan.
Oh wow, 6 months?
Yeah.
That's a long ass time.
So during the winter, I had to walk these 100 meters up to the shower every day.
So you were an art gypsy.
Well, some called me the redneck from Denmark. White trash.
Right, just living in your trailer, drinking whiskey.
Exactly.
That's hilarious.
So that was a tough start, but I managed to find something to stay in. And
is it really hard to find an apartment in Gothenburg?
Yeah, it's a huge city for students.
So it's kind of like here in a way.
It's like here.
Yeah.
So.
Brutal. Well, I feel lucky. I didn't live in a caravan when I moved to Copenhagen.
No, okay.
But so were you there for 4 years then, 5 years?
No, 3 years.
Okay.
Well, the program was 3 years, but I stayed 3.5 years since it was more suitable for my school after the school in Gothenburg.
Right.
I kind of when I stopped the program. I ended the program in Gothenburg. I was selected for this exhibition called New Nordic Photography at the Hasselblad Center.
Is this the one
Gothenburg.
now?
It's also this one. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was very lucky to be selected for the exhibition, but also being selected by a jury to get a master degree in the United Kingdom.
Was that separate, or was that is involved in the same program? Did that have anything to do with Hasselblad, or was that?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's each year Hasselblad is giving this fellowship. They are actually giving two fellowships.
Okay.
One for a student that just finished his or her bachelor. That it doesn't need to be a bachelor degree in fine art, but it's just a bachelor within something that you kind of have an artistic outcome of.
Right,
So,
right. Some sort of.
But it's of course it have to be linked with photography in some way.
Right.
Since it's Hasselblad.
Right, but somewhere along the line you stopped taking pictures, right?
Yeah.
There's no doubt you work with photographs and with photography, but it seems like you don't take pictures anymore.
No,
right?
I feel I'm very bad at taking pictures. That was kind of in the middle of the program in Sweden, where I kind of realized that why take your own photographs when there was some photographs that was already taken.
There's not some. There's a billion, bajillion.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It is kind of hard to make unique imagery or even interesting imagery in a world which is absolutely drowning in images.
Exactly.
But God knows we try. You could say the same with art or anything else.
Yeah.
But I guess also for you, it can't be just because you didn't think you were very good at it. It must have been because you found some sort of engagement or interest with these images and they spoke to you.
Yeah, exactly. It was, I kind of realized that it was more interesting to know why we are taking these pictures all the time and what does photography mean to you, not only the image, but the whole aura around a photograph.
Right.
That started to be very, very interesting. And I started slowly, after getting my first collected photographs, to realize I actually was maybe more a collector than I was a photographer.
Right.
So I kind of managed to study photography in 4 years, but not taking that many pictures myself.
So by the time you did your master's degree, you were working with found images,
yes,
and negatives, and
yeah,
and we'll get into more of that in a little bit, but you had a pretty clear idea about what you wanted to work with at that point.
In terms of found images,
yeah, in terms of a direction to take your work.
Yeah, well, at the moment I was very interested in the scientific area in photography.
The process, the actual chemical process, for example?
Well, everything, basically. Why did you have to have a photograph on a glass plate in the when it was invented, more or less?
Right.
And all the historic part of photography had been a very interesting thing to study.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It actually been a very close thing to me as well, since my father have been and is still collecting old cameras. And especially these small cinema cameras has his big interest. So I'm kind of grown up into a family of collectors,
right,
and but also a family that kind of had a huge interest in the physical part of photography,
right,
which is the camera,
right,
and that was a very lucky situation for me, because when I was little, it was like a playground for me to try different kind of cameras and be able to experiment myself. And
could you? So you had access to these? You could just use them if you wanted.
Well, not everyone.
Not the big ones, not the expensive ones.
That's daddy's.
right.
But but
they were around.
Quite many, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I even tried to be scuba diving with cameras.
Okay, yeah. With a Nikonos or something?
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I must admit that's part of the reason I'm interested in photography as well. Materials are really important in just the hands-on processes, which is ridiculous because most of the time is spent on the computer nowadays anyways. But, I prefer film and paper and darkroom not because it's better, but because it's a more interesting process for me.
Yeah. And
you can buy a camera that's, 50 years old that takes absolutely phenomenal images.
Exactly.
And it's just the enjoyment of engaging with the machine on that level.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. But you jumped all of that over and just went straight to the negatives, to the result of these machines, to the product.
I basically had people doing my work.
Well, yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah. But there's something about this alchemy in photography that is very interesting.
Absolutely. And it's not, although you can control it pretty damn accurately, there is an element of chance to it. There is something out of your control.
Yeah.
Depending on how good you are, with, all that. I mean, did you ever get in the darkroom? Did you do film developing and all that stuff?
Yeah, all that.
Did you like it?
I loved it. I think it's my dream to kind of start doing it again. But it's very difficult to start that process up again.
I'll take you up to my darkroom. I got a darkroom in Carlsberg.
Wow. Okay, that could be great.
Okay, where are we? I think. Let's just talk a little bit about England. You were there. You did the masters. You did it, right? It's done.
Yeah, it's done. I came home to Denmark not December last year, but December 2012.
Was that good? Was it a good experience?
To be in London?
Yeah, and to do the program?
Well, to be honest, I hope that it was only 1 year program.
Yeah.
Normally, every place is outside United Kingdom, basically. It's 2 years.
Right.
And it was very speedy course, I think. I preferred to have it in 2 years.
Right.
But I had to do it,
right.
Like they do it.
Do you think a master's is worth it? Because there's a lot of debate, I think, in the art world about whether an MFA is worth it, or whether it's better just to start your professional practice. Because there is somewhat of a la-la land around art school, right? Because you don't actually have to. You're not responsible for your own career until you're out. In a way. I mean, of course you are, because you have to be building up to something. But art school is, let's just say, it's one of the only places you can have a full-time work practice that has no commercial constraints whatsoever, which, is both good and evil, I guess.
Yeah.
But, I mean, do you feel like it was worth it?
Well, at least I have the feeling right now that I don't feel any needs to have more education.
You don't want a PhD?
Well, not for now, at least.
Right. But I mean, that's okay, as long as you feel like that you accomplished that.
Yeah, but I think that you can have the best education in the world, but it all up to you how to study while you're there.
Right. Boy, ain't that the truth?
Yeah. I don't think it depends so much on the education, but at least in the art world. Now
right.
we're talking about the art world, of
right.
course. It's more. It's more about the outcome and your interest that you're getting.
Right. Well, I mean, no one cares about the hundreds of, perhaps thousands of artists, of art students who graduate every year and... Hold on a second. Wait for that car to go by. Nobody cares about the hundreds or perhaps thousands of students who graduate every year and don't, they start a graphic design company or and I'm not saying that that's a problem. No, there isn't space for that many artists, but no. It's true. No one talks about your education unless you're an actual working artist.
Yeah. I think
So like you say, it doesn't matter if you have an MFA unless you're a working artist. And then it's like, oh, where are you educated? And then it reflects positively back on that institution. But no one's like, oh, that was a great idea to get an art degree. And now you have a catering business,
Exactly.
And considering how expensive an art degree is in the US, it's absolutely jaw-dropping.
Oh my.
That's why I'm a dropout. I dropped out of art school because I didn't want to have $100,000 in debt. There's no reason to do that.
No.
As great it is to shield yourself from the real world,
Yeah.
But I mean, in your case, it's different. You got this fellowship. You got to go to the school. You got to go to London.
Yes.
Was London, was that a great place to be working?
I will love to move back to London, I would say.
Why didn't you just stay there?
I felt that now I have been outside for Denmark for 4 years.
Right.
So, and I recently at the time just got a nephew. So I felt that I also needed to go home to be around the family, basically. And,
right.
See if I could, start a career out of all the years of studying.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, I guess you can keep, I don't want to say running away, but stay away forever if you want, but at a certain point you might have to make that decision, which is the decision you made.
Yeah.
Was it rough though to come back?
Yeah, it was. Everything has just changed so much over the years.
Right. I mean, I can see a huge difference just in the 7 years I've been here in terms of the way things work.
Yeah.
and everyone talks about, art world is all networking and everything, but holy shit, is that true? You really, really have to be on someone's radar in order to do anything. Yeah. Really. And you can't just come out of nowhere and say, hey, guess what? Look, here's what I do.
No, exactly.
And everyone's like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Who told you could talk to me?
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's this weird thing about inclusion. And that's why, we wanted to talk about this today, because I'll tell you a story. This show here is pretty new, right? We're trying to do something that is not being done as far as we know. I mean, there are a couple of podcasts about art. There isn't one like this with this kind of tone anywhere as far as we know. We're trying to, first and foremost, we're talking to Danish artists. We're talking to Danish institutions. We want a presence in Denmark. And it kind of occurred to me a couple weeks ago that all these institutions and all these places are sniffing around this program, but no one is saying anything about it. No one is mentioning, they're all just out there, and I can see it's like a campfire, and you see the wolves' eyes in the dark around the fire. That's what it feels like. Huge institutions all are aware of us, what we're doing, but no one's saying anything. They're just watching. And it kind of occurred to me, wait a second. Why doesn't anyone want to just come out and talk to me or be part of this? I know we're getting started. We're developing the project. It's not like I'm not sitting here and saying this is the most amazing show ever. What the fuck? Why isn't anyone paying attention? I'm saying, why isn't there any sort of just like, this person's doing something here. Why? What, how, no one has stepped forward, but I know they know we're here. They follow us on Twitter. They sniff around. There was an incident. I don't want to name names. There was an incident with copyright material a couple weeks ago. Okay. In which I was given a photo to put up. I asked for photos like I did for you of the person. They gave me a photo which was copyrighted by someone else. And I got an email from an institution with the nastiest tone. And it was, this institution I've emailed to, I've talked to, I've tried to engage with them. They don't answer so much. They're busy, but, instantly, as soon as they saw I had something of theirs up, I got a really nasty email about it, and it was an accident. I had no idea. And I wrote back and was like, look, they gave me this. I'm sorry. It's just, I'm not that dumb. I'm not going to start using someone else's material. No. But I realized, they're there. They know I'm here. They know what we're doing. They're just not saying anything until something like that happens. No. Do you think in Denmark that this sort of inclusion, is it more closed? Did it feel more open in, for example, Sweden or in London or?
Well, it's very hard to say, because when you're doing a program at school, you kind of build up your own network. Right. And the way I feel right now is that I have my network in Sweden and I have in London. Right. But during the last year being here in Copenhagen, it's kind of, back to start. Right. And it's without any institution to help, or like any school, right. to say, okay, here's the network.
Right. Here you go.
So basically I feel what had happened to me while I've been here in Denmark is by accident. And I think that is very normal for this, both for you, for this podcast also, and for an artist, that everything, you have to be patient a little bit, and then Clearly. It kind of just happened by accident.
Right. Well, I guess the attitude is just to do what you do so well that you can't be ignored. Because that's very American. I realize that, but artists really like this show. That's the most positive response, is actually artists. I think some curators, that sort of thing, because to them it can be informative, or, we started it because we found this sort of thing interesting. But, it's just, Yeah, I guess you're right. It's just normal, and of course you can't just show up out of nowhere and expect to be paid attention to. It's just more that feeling that they're there watching, but there's nothing else happening,
Yeah.
But, of course, inclusion also, the art world has to be selective, right? And to have high standards to show the best work, which is what anyone wants to see. No one goes to a museum and says, I wish everybody who made art could hang on the wall here.
No.
You have to have some sort of selection, and that includes, you have to exclude somebody.
Exactly.
So it is a natural selection, right?
Yeah, they have to be. I don't know what to say, but other than I think you have to rely on yourself and to be humble about your thing. Otherwise, here in Denmark, it would be wrong to just stand on the street and start screaming.
True.
And say, "Here I am."
True. Yeah, and that's not the intention either.
No.
Maybe we're going around. I'm going around this all wrong, but I don't know. It just seems like the more interest there is in the arts, the better it is for everybody. Right? This isn't a competition. Okay, artists need to be selected and we need to have good art on the wall. We need to curate good content. Mm-hmm. But in terms of arts in general, the more the institutions are involved with each other, with the city, with the state, with, the whole idea about the state money for the art that supports and develops the arts, right? Mm-hmm. So, I don't see, for example, why you, when you come here, are having a hard time figuring out what your network is. Because in the meantime, you're showing at the Hasselblad Center in Sweden. This is, a big deal. You're showing at Riga Photo Month right now. Shit's happening. You're not just coming out of nowhere. You're just not coming out of Denmark.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
Mm. It is a bit weird feeling. Actually, I've been talking with a journalist lately, and I kind of approached her because it felt like a right person to approach by saying, well, could you do something, talk something? I think it could be an interesting story to tell.
Right.
And at first she was very excited, and I think she liked my work and so on. But she needed a couple of weeks to sell my story because she's working as a freelancer.
Right.
But then after a couple of weeks, she replied in it was a very nice email, by saying that my story is very interesting, but since I'm more active abroad, she couldn't sell my story in Denmark because you have to be more national to be accepted in some way.
Right.
When it comes like that, and you have a lot of American listeners, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
about half the listeners are in America.
Wow. I think that, well, at some point it would tip the other way. I really hope.
It's going upwards. It's again, I realize I'm starting to sound kind of like I'm just yelling at the world for not paying attention to me.
Old grumpy guy.
Yeah, and that's really not my intention.
I feel like that so much.
I think that's kind of important too. I think it's more just like it's just that feeling that there's a closed city with some very big walls around it. And I think that art is for everybody. I don't think being an artist is for everybody. I think that there needs to be a selection process in terms of that. But that the more open we are, the more the city is opened to everybody, the better off everybody is. The more normalized art will become. I'm all for exclusivity in terms of an institution shows interesting art, like I keep saying. But I don't know if they should if this idea that you can't even get over the wall, or that you're judged differently because you're not born on the inside. You know, again, you are a working artist. You have the education, you have the talent, you have the work all behind you, you know, but you're just struggling to make a network. You know, that's all it is, right? It's just a network. You're not missing anything else.
No.
Is it frustrating?
Yeah, it is. It is a bit frustrating, but who to blame? So to say.
I mean, for God's sakes, we chose to be artists, you know. So no one said it was easy. I understand that.
But I have the attitude that as long as I'm doing what I kind of like to do, all the finance and the money question will kind of solve itself at some point.
Right.
But I have the feeling that it could be nice that it happens soon.
Right. Well, you know, I completely understand, and I think you have the right attitude. You can't sit around. I mean, nothing will sink your boat faster than sitting around and being like, God damn, I'm great. Why doesn't anyone pay attention to me?
There's so many people that is doing that. Yeah.
Right. And who wants to hang out with them?
No, exactly.
So I'll shut up. I shouldn't go off on this. I'm just very interested, right? You know, in the idea of inclusion, essentially, in this. But let's turn it around to your works. Just to set it up, you work with found images. We talked about it a little bit before. Often very old images.
Often, yeah.
Is it always old images, or is it?
No, I started working with color now. It's a big step.
That's true, actually, right.
But my main interest is pictures taken in the beginning of the 20th century.
Right.
Since there's a big thing happening in the photographic world, because now the medium class is getting bigger, the working class is also getting richer.
Right.
And suddenly you can afford your own camera.
Right. Well, not only that, it's in everything you own. It's in your shaving device. It's in your telephone.
It's always in your pocket, basically. So in terms of this thing of studying photography, it's an area that kind of is the beginning of how we see photography today. They were the first family that experimented with the photographic medium also.
Right, the first generation.
Yeah, so it kind of, it is mainly within family pictures I have my interest.
Yeah. And
it's, if you should compare it with today, it's like looking in people's Facebook profiles, seeing the family pictures.
Right. I mean, it seems like you're often, I mean, I'm thinking also about your work now, which I've seen, the one that's at the Hasselblad Center.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's much, the photos are much newer than the other ones, but there's a common idea, which is that there's a history to them. There's a story involved in them. And I'm kind of curious, is your, you know, when a photo grabs you, is it more of like a history thing, or is it more of like a photo as a document, that it represents something that happened?
It's both.
Okay.
I will, now I try to remember what I had to say, but I think that a photograph is a proof of existence. And now this project going on in Hasselblad is pictures of renowned Mexicans. So they have the proving that they are historic persons.
Right, and there's already a story behind them because they are public figures.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. I basically see the same thing by a portrait of one of these guys that is in the installation, and a family portrait. It's a human being in front of you.
Right, so whether they have a public persona or not, there's still a story. It's still engaging on that level.
Yeah. But yeah, normally it's these almost 100 years old glass negative, which is my biggest collection of photographs. I think I have about 3,000 or 4,000 glass negatives.
Holy shit! Where do you get them?
Well, that's kind of my thing. I walk on flea markets and looking through boxes and
just get out there.
Yeah,
do it on foot. You don't buy them online.
No. That would be such a shame to do that. Yeah. Because for me, it's like going on these walks almost and find these more treasures.
Right.
It is really like a treasure when you open up a box that haven't been opened for many, many years.
Right.
And find these uniques of glass plates that is so fragile.
Right.
That they can basically break like snapping two
right.
fingers.
Right. It's just a 100-year-old piece of glass.
Yeah. So I have made this collection. And at one point I started to realize that this archive is just getting so big, and what does that suddenly mean?
Right.
So I started to understand how the archive is working, which is very linked to photography. And then I basically decided to not that I did it, but the viewer at an exhibition could decide to destroy my entire collection if it was meant to.
I saw that. It kind of, I was like, whoa, no, you know. Right. So, I mean, basically, to tell the listeners, you put the negatives on a piece of string hanging, and the viewer, the person viewing this work could cut the string and smash this 100-year-old negative.
Yeah.
And people did.
People did it.
Did you? Did you smash one?
No. It's my collection, right?
But I mean, you must have put the ones you didn't really care about out first, right?
I made a selection of the one that was not that interesting, and then making a schedule.
Right. Was that kind of a cathartic thing? Like it was almost a performance, which had to be some sort of engagement with the collection itself.
Yes and no.
Yeah, I mean, what did it represent? Because, I mean, to me, the thing that's really interesting is that you are holding a piece of history, and when that is broken, that's it. You know, we're so used to things being permanent in their digital form in some way or another. Or even, you know...
And you have copies of it.
Yeah, exactly. Or, you know, a negative, you might lose the negative, but you still have the prints, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in this case, you're smashing a unique, irreplaceable item. What was the main idea behind that? You know, because that's what grabbed me about it.
Well, it's a study into how important we think history is. Not history as a historic episode, but like
specific.
Yeah, and what does it also mean that I, as a collector, can go down on a flea market, and in front of you have a person that is selling your entire family album. Yeah. Which is nothing you can get back again.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stories behind this installation that I hope to have a little focus on.
Right.
What does photography means to us, and is it just to throw it out when you don't have any relationship to a relation to the person that you see in the pictures.
Right. Maybe somebody dies and then a person comes into their home to sell their items. They find these negatives and they think, oh, well, fuck it, we can sell these too.
Yeah.
I have a small collection of old negatives, and I have 4 different families essentially, and it's such a strange thing to go through a family's images and try to figure out who were these people, where are they, when was this? You don't have any sort of, or at least it's harder to figure out the signifiers for okay, based on this clothing, when was this from? Who is taking this picture right now? Because here's the rest of the family, you know, that sort of thing. But I guess the interesting thing to me is how do you represent that in a way which is important to the material? Here you have a family's life. You're not talking about that family, really. I mean, you kind of are, but you're talking more about families in general and these images.
Family memories.
Yeah. I mean, has there been any sort of crossover from like someone says, "Holy fuck, that's my grandmother," or
No, but I hope that day will happen.
Right.
It could be fun to hear a person say, "Oh, that's my grand." Yeah,
right.
Dad, or something like that.
Right.
But then most of them would be more than 100 years old right now. I see that is quite little. That some of them in the pictures are still alive, at least. But I haven't really got any harsh critic on this by using other people. Family albums.
Doesn't feel like a private issue.
No, but one time I actually got a very interesting critic. I wasn't in the room when it happened, but it was, from mouth to mouth.
Right.
And it was a friend of mine that had brought her landlord to the exhibition, and I was showing this video installation I've made that is old portraits that is looking out in the room.
Mm-hmm. Is that the one where they blink?
Exactly.
Creepy.
Very creepy. And she thought it was very respectless of me to play with other people's identity.
Right. I can see how that perhaps could be argued. It's weird when the bond between person and nostalgic object of said person becomes severed. And do you have a responsibility to this person anymore? Do they own, in some weird way, a photograph of me? Do I have any ownership of it? That sort of.
Yeah.
I think for most people, they're just happy that you're presenting this and engaging with this method that you found. But I could see how some people would be like, "Boy, that would be terrible if that was me." Yeah.
Well. Actually, that is one of the reasons why I'm collecting negatives, because I have this feeling that I owe the copyright or the object to represent it again in my way.
Right. Well, something happened. That's why it's there.
Yeah.
That someone didn't pick it up and carry it on in the family, or something happened.
Yeah.
How does this relate to the hands-on process you were talking about earlier, about how you like to work with your hands? Do you end up, like I do, spending a lot of time working digitally just to work out your ideas, just to present your ideas, or are you more studio-based? Do you have everything out on a table and you're cutting and...
I have everything on my floor.
Okay. So
that's how I work.
Okay.
Especially in this latest project. Right now I'm showing. It needs kind of a big space to,
Right. I mean, one of the pictures is 2 meters long.
Yeah, and to see it from distance, and I think I'm very analog when it comes to working, I would say.
Yeah.
But of course I'm using the computer to, to start an idea, and but it's it's always ending up, well, on the floor.
On the floor.
On the table.
Well, I mean, I think that's important. It's something I'm fighting to get back into my life because, you know, for example, I shoot only film. It's expensive to buy film. It's expensive to process film. And then on top of that, in order to make a finished series, I'd have to go in the darkroom or pay to have it printed, you know, to make, let's say, 20 pieces. At that point, without an exhibition, it's easier for me just to scan it and do it that way. But in the meantime, I'm losing that hands-on element.
Yeah, you are missing the craft of what photography can actually be.
Well, it's the last step in a way, you know, because the craft of taking the picture and all that is still intact. But it's just, I mean, I guess what you really need is to have somewhere to put it, you know, because I could make 500 pictures a year, physical pictures, but I have no idea where I put them. You know, like what would I do with all that?
Yeah.
But yeah. So you've got the show up now. Do you have any idea about what's next?
Well, I need a break.
Right.
That's the first thing, but I need to I need to work some more on the project that is shown at the Hasselblad right now, which is a project surrounding a trip I made in Mexico last year. And I need to go back to Mexico, but I don't have any time right now, or well, I don't have any money right now. So I think I will just be a little passive right now and
think about it.
Yeah, think things through and make the exhibition work by themselves.
Right.
You need to do that sometime.
Right. Just reap the benefits in a way. Do you want to make more pieces for this project, the one with the Mexican journalists, or do you want to make a new work, which is the next step?
Well, what is shown on the wall right now is only fragments of the entire idea I have about this project.
It's a big-ass fragment. I mean, it's one piece, right?
Well, the final result would be one piece, which is actually two. It would be. I have the idea to make a book in two versions. One of them is surrounding this box I found at this market in Mexico, and the other version of the book would be more like an investigation on my experience and my journey in Mexico, which I have to go back and remake.
Right, continue,
yeah.
I guess we should explain a little bit. You found images of journalists, like we said, and you have presented them in window mats cut into traditional Mexican patterns, right? Forms.
Yeah.
And then you've, how many, 10 frames with these images in it?
11.
11, yeah. One with each journalist in it.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing is put together into one huge pyramid, right? I mean, it's...
Yeah, it could look like a pyramid.
At least there's the stack. There's a photo on it on the website. You can see, you the listeners can see what we mean. But, you know, it seems like you're opening something which you could potentially work with for a long time. That box looks like there's a lot of photos in there.
Yeah, they really are. So, yeah. It's just a question of how and when to start.
Right. Right. Sleep a couple days and get going again, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you, I mean, I guess the other option here in Denmark is to apply for shows in nonprofit spaces. There are a fair amount of them. Although I guess network is still key.
It definitely is.
Yeah. All right. Do you think you'll ever get tired of working with found materials in this way? Or do you think you found your thing? I know it's a completely loaded question. There's no way to really answer it. But I mean, it seems like you have a very specific focus right now, I guess is what I'm saying. Do you feel confident that you've found?
Well, I feel that there is something very engaging in what I'm doing. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it.
Sure.
But I think there's a reason to continue.
Absolutely.
And also because, it feels like a playground out there with a lot of untold story that is just waiting to be told.
Yeah. What's nice about having that sort of material is you can also, it takes a long time to figure out what it is actually about it that touches you. Because you know that it's interesting, but you may not know exactly why, or there may be a new element to flesh out, to figure out, and sometimes having something sit in a drawer for a couple of years is a good thing. And then when you pull it out again, a whole new element strikes you.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll go back to taking pictures?
Well, I kind of started a bit, but I feel it would be easier if someone took them for me.
Well, I mean, think about this. In 100 years, when someone wants to work with history from now, we're going to need some pictures.
That's true. That's true. But I think there's a few other than me.
Yeah. Oh, man.
That could do that.
Cool. Well, I want to thank you for sitting down and talking to me.
Well, the pleasure was on my side.
Thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Cool guy, huh? It's a cool story. It's kind of nice to talk to other people who've been away and are here and trying to create network and create some sort of, I don't know, some sort of movement, some sort of flow. Like you feel like you like where you're supposed to be. So, not much else to talk about. There's more to come. We're still restructuring a little bit here. We have a lot of great guests lined up coming up in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. And that's about all the teasers I'll leave you with for right now. We'll be back next week. We are talking, or at least reserving the right to every once in a while jump a week just to get our bearings, to refocus, to get something done. So we are going to every once in a while be bi-weekly. Most of the time we'll be weekly, but every once in a while we reserve the right to take a week off to bring you a better show, right? That's the plan. Cool. So yeah, stay tuned. Thanks for listening, guys. This week's episode was once again produced by Undergang Armchair. Intro and outro music provided by Heavy Links. Link to Heavy Links on our About page. Interstitial music provided this week by Padre D Productions. Link to that on today's show notes. You can check us out, undergang.net. You can subscribe, iTunes, Stitcher. All the links are there on our website. We also write about stuff. We have a photo essay. There's cool stuff on our website. Also, check us out on Twitter. Keeping it moving on Twitter. It's a great platform. I know it's somewhat underdeveloped in Denmark. People aren't really using it, but it cannot be recommended enough. Our handle is The Undergang. And finally, you can write to us. Holler at undergang.net. Holler, Holler. Write to us. Engage with us. Tell us what's going on. Send us more mails that you miss us. We like that. It makes us feel good. So cool. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it. We love each and every one of you guys for listening. And if you love us too, tell a friend. All right. Thanks again. Catch you guys next week.